that? R.I.P. Tom Benson. Shout out to the whole Who That Nation. Now who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. I say who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. Oh, who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. I say who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. You got that fever? Yeah, yeah, that fever for the flavor. Got that flavor? Yeah, yeah, that flavor for the funk. You got that fever? Yeah, yeah, that fever for the flavor. Got that flavor? Yeah, yeah, that flavor for the funk. I got that fever, my people. See, we not equal, my people. I'm like that dog Saint underneath the steeple, my people. Got Drew Brees, he the feature, and our defense the sequel. The D-line and linebackers, man, they coming to reach ya. Make enemies some believers, cause we overachievers. DBs see 50-50 balls and we call them keepers. Y'all can follow this leader, cause Sean Payton will teach ya.
Saints Talk listeners, what's up? We back. It's another episode of Saints Talk, the official podcast of NewOrleans.Football. I'm Kevin. I'm here with Nick, and we're here to talk about the Saints. Nick, how you holding up?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just, kind of dreading these taxes. Every year is kind of like a, it's like a little terror for me. It's a nightmare. It's a bad time. But this year, I got Sant.
I haven't worried a minute.
I just
haven't
set you up
thought about my
with
taxes. I haven't thought about my taxes. Just with Sant, you're good, man. You just call them in, and if you're a business, if you're a person, if you're anyone who needs guidance with your daily accounting, Sant CPA can get your finances in order. They provide relevant accounting information, detailed analysis, and clear communication in a timely manner. Call today 318-321-2765 or visit santcpa.com. All the info is in the show notes. And go hit up our guys at Firehouse Subs. They're the best. Great people, do great things. Veterans Boulevard location. Best one you can get. And you know who else has clear communication? Dennis Allen.
Dennis Allen. I'm glad you went there, because I know last week we took the advertisements a little far.
Oh yeah. I heard back a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to get into the slander. I was like, wait a minute, let me chill.
Yeah, we got a little too deep into the smoke, and but hey, sometimes it's like that, man. Missy's the only misdemeanor we know. So.
Hey, listen, man, we ride for our folks, man. So that's how it is. So DA is, man, he kind of crushed it. He kind of crushed his first presser, man. I'll give him that. I thought he gave good answers. He gave you something to be excited about. What was your take on it?
He just says he is who he is. He presented exactly as the man that we've known him to be throughout. Every time he talks, he's kind of the same. And look, I just think that's kind of who he is, and I think it's good that he has a good sense of self. And he went up there and he was just himself, and he did his thing, and he did it as DA. And I think that's just going to kind of be what his tenure is. I think he's going to have no problem doing it himself and being who he is. And that was kind of one of the main talking points he had too, that I thought was pretty important. Mm-hmm. It was just the understanding of self, doing it as yourself. Because look, when you're following up a legend, it's easy to kind of try to be the legend, and you can't do that. Like, you can take their lessons, you can learn from them, you can take things from them, but you have to take those things and make it part of
kind of like you coming back when Ian left. Like, you come behind. My bad. All right, go ahead. My bad.
But no, for real though. I mean, I think you got to take those things and build them into your repertoire and make them, oh, these are lessons I learned from Sean. How can I make them work for me as DA? And I think that's what he's going to do. And I think he understands that. And he's not going to try to be Sean. He's going to run the program how he sees fit. There's going to be similarities to it, but DA is going to do DA. And that's what he did today. And I thought it was good. I thought he presented well. We always talk about who wins the press conference and everything. It doesn't surprise me at all that, I think that's overrated, though, those conversations. But the fact that DA was prepared for it, comfortable in the moment, in command, none of that surprised me, because that's exactly who he's been the whole entire time he's been here. And that's, those are the traits that have led us to have multiple conversations about why he was the right guy and all that. I mean, it's just, he's a man who's ready for the opportunity. And I think that's just kind of exactly what you saw today.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree with you. I think that I mean, it must have been 3 or 4 different points in the presser where, he spoke specifically about like being himself in this role, right? And like you said, it was like one of the themes. It was probably the main theme of this entire presser. Is just, hey, I got to do this my way. I got to be me. I'm not Sean. I'm not going to try to be Sean. Sean, to me, is a Hall of Fame coach. I learned a lot from him. In a lot of ways, he's, and I think there's a difference. And I want to make sure that, I do, we speak about it and we address it, is there's going to be a lot of similarities with him and Sean, right? Because that's who he's been coaching under for 12 of the last 16 years, right?
Yeah.
As they said a few times in the press conference. So you're going to see some Sean Payton type stuff. You may see he may walk the sidelines like Sean Payton or whatever he does, right? It's just who he learned from. And you naturally, like, say a coach that comes from the Kyle Shanahan offense, they're going to run zone, run game, right? They're going to use heavy play action. They're going to slide anybody in the running back position. And, why they traded Clinton Portis for Champ Bailey, because you know what I mean? And so it's just like you coach what you know, and you learn from people, and those are the traits that you pick up, but that don't mean you're not being yourself. And I kind of get the feeling that that's exactly what we're going to get from DA as a Saints head coach. So it was a good start for him. I think that one thing that stood out other than that to me was just, I want to be careful how I word this because I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, but like, he just, given what they were looking for at this time, it felt like it is. I would get the feeling that he was the overwhelming favorite. Like, just the culture and what they had, and just building them up on what they had. It seemed to be so important that it seems like it was kind of hard. It would have been really hard for someone to like overtake him for this job. Like, they would have had to totally blow it away to kind of get over him in this job search.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, I think he was the favorite from day one. I don't think they ran like a dishonest process or anything like that. I think they ran a very honest search process. I think one of the reasons that AG was, I was hearing a lot about him being real impressive, being under consideration and all that stuff. I think it was the ties to the culture and everything like that too.
Yeah, that's
Because we've talked about it a lot, like just kind of how their situation was absolutely different from everybody else's, and they aren't starting over, all that stuff. But I don't even think it's just that though. Like, I think he should have been an overwhelming favorite, period,
other
because
jobs.
because of who he is and what he's accomplished and where he's at in his career. Like, I know a lot of people act like, hey, this like they wanted something different or whatever. You're hiring a head coach who's ran a top 5 defense the last 2 years. I mean, just factually, based off success, there really aren't going to be other coordinators either side of the ball who are more accomplished than him in this moment. It's just,
you said it during the season, and I think it bears repeating. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find a coordinator that coaches or has coached in recent memory his side of the ball better. And I didn't say defensive coordinator, I said coordinator, right? Like, when you look at what he's doing, I remember you made that point, and I was like, damn, that's a good point. Like, he's elite at what he does. Like, he's the top tier. He's at the top of the tier when you talk about defensive minds.
Yeah. You look, I think that there'd be like a ton of excitement for somebody if like it's a new thing. So I think when people get something new, they're like super excited about it. And I'm not saying people aren't excited about DA. I mean, I've just seen some people kind of like, pushing for something, and it's just like, I think they wanted something like new and exciting to think about and talk about and to dissect. But I think if, like, say Chicago hired DA, like, Chicago fans would have been over the moon about him. Or if like DA was
defense is coming back, 85 Bears returning defensive guy. Yeah.
Or if DA was coming here from another location, I think it would just kind of be, this is amazing. It's a new thing, all that stuff. So I think that was just kind of maybe some of the reaction that you saw was just because people wanted something new, and something new is something exciting. But look, I think people should be excited about DA because they managed to keep one of the best coordinators in the NFL in position, and he's going to keep running it, and preserving that defense means that you have a chance to win playoff games. They almost got into the playoffs with a team that was ridiculous at quarterback the whole season. They didn't have a quarterback after week 7 or whatever it was. Like, they didn't have a quarterback, a starting quarterback.
You could just say they didn't have an offense. Like, just
they didn't have one. Yes,
they didn't have one.
Right.
They score like 18 points or 20 points, and you're like, oh crap, this is a blowout, right? So yeah,
right. So,
Yeah, remember that? You ever seen that show on HGTV, Love It or Listed, where they get these people and they show them this new home, and it's like it's the brand new home, and they can renovate their current home. Every episode, like you just rooting for the people to pick the. I don't know. I watch HGTV because I do, right? But yeah, it's like you always rooting for the people to get the new house, right? But like when you just literally think about it, like the just renovating like makes the most sense, right? And I don't know if that's the best example, but that's kind of what I thought about. It's like in certain cases, yes, new house, you need something new. In this case, I understood why they made the decision. I mean, look, if they'd have hired somebody new, I'd have been excited too, right? It's just human nature. But I think if I was making the decision, I probably would have made the same decision that they made, given the information that I have.
Right.
So 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 let's tackle this. And this is kind of a segue to, the whole point about wanting something new. I think that wanting something new had a lot to do with wanting someone new wanting a new offensive minded coach. I think that's kind of the root of where those feelings reside. And I think it's valid, right? I don't think people are wrong or misplaced for thinking that way. But I think it goes to the point where the offense is so bad last year, and there's no quarterback, and there's a lack of weapons, and there's some questions on the offensive line. So I think people are looking and saying, well, we need offense, we need offense, we need offense. And when you hire a defensive minded coach, you people tend to think that you like that. So like, what
Let
are your
me
thoughts on that?
let's come back to that real quick. Yeah, I wanna address this comment we're seeing in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope he's the right pick to continue the Saints culture that SP built, because sometimes you choose someone outside the organization to continue the winning because that's what culture is winning. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can establish a culture by winning, but like their culture is more than it's the culture top to bottom. It's the culture in the front office. It's the culture between the coaching staff. It's the culture between the coaching staff and the front office. It's the culture between the coaching staff and the players. And there's just a continuity throughout it. So you could bring somebody in and establish a new culture, and that culture would be winning. But the reason they picked DA is because they didn't want to start over from scratch and have a situation where you're learning all this stuff. You're reestablishing what already exists in what the players are buying into in the communication aspect, and being on the same page with the coach, with the scouting and the prototypes, and having the prototypes that fit that system so that you can just continue the scouting and in the synergy and the culture between the scouts and the coaching staff and the position coach. It's a lot more than just winning games. It's a top to bottom organizational thing. And, I think that if they do end up replacing Pete Carmichael, I think that they'll probably end up going out and hiring a friendly, familiar type of person that has ties to the organization already, because that lets them sit into that position and then continue that culture as well. So it's yeah, you can rebuild it, but you're starting over and rebuilding it, and then that takes time. And then if you're maybe if you have familiar stuff and you're winning and you're continuing the culture, you're a 10-win team because you're hitting the ground running as fast as you possibly could post Sean Payton, because you have a coach that has already been a head coach and that has already been familiar with the culture. So there isn't an acclimation period. But maybe if you're say you hire Eric Bieniemy, who's never been a head coach, who has to figure out how to be a head coach, and there is on the job learning. Even people that are successful, they aren't going to be as good as they are in year one as they are in year two, or in week one as they are in week 15. So you hire someone that knows how to be a coach, that isn't getting familiar with the culture on the fly. That 10-win team might be an 8-win team, because there's growing pains and there's ups and downs and there's bumps and bruises, and it's not just the coach. The players have to learn how to relate to the coach and the culture that he's trying to establish. So the idea behind continuing the culture is that you aren't wasting any time whatsoever with the new coach. You aren't wasting another year of Demario Davis, of Cam Jordan, of Malcolm Jenkins, and you just wasted a year by not building a good enough offensive roster. So if you go through another year, 2 years, your core players on defense haven't had the right chance to compete. Now you've wasted 2 seasons, and maybe you blow a massive window that you might have had, because if you stay a good team, you can recruit better players. So now you're winning. But if you're an 8-win team going in the next season with a new coach and you aren't very good, you aren't recruiting the same way, you aren't as close to winning. It's just it's a setback, and it's it's a risk. So I think for this team being where they're at with the age of their roster, with how close they are to being able to compete, continuing the culture with DA, I don't think there was another look. They tried to find another choice, but I don't think that there was a better choice for this team than keeping what you have going. Plus, again, top coordinator in the league.
Yeah, yeah. I think when I read this question, I think that I would answer it a little bit differently. I would say that, like, in this question, it says, winning, or you took it away. It's basically said, like, winning, you get a good culture because of winning. I don't think that's how the NFL. I don't think that's how the NFL works. I think a good culture is what allows you to win, right? The culture comes first, and then the winning comes second,
It's
right?
a
And
chicken and the egg thing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree.
yeah. I think in this, chicken. That's it's a funny way to think about it, but true. But yeah, like you have to, and listen, and I mean sustain winning. Right now, there's teams. I mean, listen, the Saints they won. I think sometimes when they had Gillette, and they lost Roman Harper, they lost Vilma, they lost Malcolm Jenkins one year, and the culture didn't last. They lost the culture. I think they maybe had a little success after that. If I remember off the top of my head, but eventually it blew up, right? The winning stopped because the culture wasn't in place, right? The culture was gone. The guys that built the culture, the leaders, the Malcolm Jenkins, the Roman Harpers, the John Vilmas, the Jabari Greers, those guys left, and the leaders became, guys like Junior Gillette and these other guys, and it went to bed, right? So, and he was a talented pass rusher, by the way, and so you have to have that culture to get to the point where you can become a winning team, and they know that. And I'll be honest with you, it probably up until like maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, I was like, culture, whatever, just get talented people and you're fine. And like the current iteration of this team, seeing what they did when they were losing versus how they're winning now, it's totally night and day. So, again, I think the culture comes first, and then, and they understand that. I think they understand that. And like, say this year, I think defensive culture, and with that culture comes pride, right? Pride. And, those guys like really thought they were the best team in the NFL, and they were probably only ones, but that's what the culture brings. Like, they were naive enough to think like, we'll go to the playoffs and we can beat any team.
Yeah,
Right?
look, I mean, I think that I like what you just brought up there, because I do think too that you see exactly what DA's going to try to build. And look, he's a silent kind of guy. He's doesn't present as like boisterous. Sean's the most boisterous person in the world. But like even what you just said right there, like that side of the ball, those players were extremely. I don't want to say no, they were cocky.
They
CJ
were
said the word
cocky.
cocky.
No, they were cocky. Yeah.
CJ GJ said the word cocky. So I'll say they were cocky.
They were proud
were
of their
cocky.
cockiness.
They played with a massive chip on their shoulder, and they let people know when they did something right. And I think that's going to be what the whole team does. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like. Look, I think the whole team's going to play in that image, and they're going to be kind of in your face a little bit, and I like that, man. I like the way the defense
and
plays.
The coach is the one behind it.
Right, the coach is the one behind it, and it's
He's
crazy
the leader.
because he doesn't present like that. And I asked him about that today, and he's like, that's how I am, or whatever. I'm like, that's how you are,
a humble
like,
leader, right?
Yeah.
But like, really, you telling these dudes to go get after these fools? They can't.
Yeah.
They can't see y'all, right? So I mean, like, think about it, right?
Hey, quick little promotion too. If you're at a Mardi Gras parade, look for these.
No, I ain't got mine yet. Yeah,
Can you
I ain't
see
got
them?
mine
Can you
yet.
see you got the little football beads on there?
Hey, turn up.
We're gonna have these in a bunch of parades being thrown out there. If you catch one, holler at us, let us know. But also, if you sign up for any subscription before this live broadcast ends, if you're listening to the replay, it don't count. You're listening to the podcast, you don't count. If you're watching the live YouTube right now, sign up before the end of the show. We'll mail you one. So there you go. Yeah, they're Shrine with it.
Hey,
right there.
That's the real model right
Yep.
there, bro. Look at
Yep.
that. Hey, come on now. I was jealous. I was like, I wanted one out, and then she had it on. I was like, yeah, I can't outdo that. But yeah. Make sure you guys check that out, support it, sign up, do everything. We need you guys. Real talk. But yeah. So just to finishing on that point, like, they were playing against the greatest quarterback in NFL history, the greatest player in NFL history, and one of the greatest athletes of all time. These dudes are so cocky, right? That they were it's like don't trigger Brady, right? Leave Brady alone, or Brady's gonna get upset. He's gonna throw 3 touchdowns on you. And these dudes like, bro, we don't care about Brady. Like, like who the hell is he? Like, we gonna do what we do, and there's nothing they can do about it, right? And so you can't that when you talk about culture, it's just not about guys who are like nice people and give back to the community, right? It's like on field culture too. It's confidence, and I just you when when you see it, but when you don't have it, it's like it's like a open wound when you have it and lose it. And so I definitely think it's deeper than
Someday,
just yeah. Go
someday
ahead.
someone's going to write the real story about those 14, 15 teams and some of the stuff that was going on around them. And
Yeah,
I don't have anything like enough to report anything, but the stories, the whispers, the rumors about some of the stuff that was going on and how much of the culture got lost during
yeah,
those years. I mean, that's when I stopped questioning. Like I used to think it was stupid. Like Sean would
yeah,
talk about culture and all this stuff, and like I'd like kind of roll my eyes, and then over time I started like hearing about what happened during those years, and it was just like, all right,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
like this stuff's real, and it really actually matters. And I
It
think you kind of
matters.
saw the result of it in 14, because that should have been a good team. Like that was a team that was really
Yep.
good in 13, should have been good enough to compete for a Super Bowl. Honestly, I mean, talent wise, and they just fell off, and it was because stuff wasn't right in house. It was
Yep.
all of that. I mean, they,
Yep.
they lost their way, and it looked like it. And
Yeah.
frankly, I think it's of the utmost importance at this point. And yeah, I mean, could somebody come in and win games? Sure. I mean, and you could have fine culture and all that. You'd have a new culture, and it could work out. It maybe might work out, but if you're betting on a situation and you have to make the safest bet, the smartest bet, the guy that already can continue your culture, that's also, again, one of the best coordinators in the NFL, period,
Right.
who you've been around, who you're comfortable with, who you're looking at, who
Yeah.
you've been promoting to be a head coach. Like behind the scenes, people have been pushing for DA to get a
Mhm.
job. Like
Yeah.
they've believed in him to that level that they were trying to help him, promote him. Hey, this is check him out. You're hiring people. You should really look at this guy. Like,
Right.
you know, and
There you
then
go.
yeah, I mean, it's not
What else do we need to say? And
right.
the top it off, right? When you look at the culture on the team, like the culture was on the culture. When you think about the culture of the Saints, you think about mostly defense, right? Mostly defense, right? You think about Marshawn, you think about Demario, you think about Cam, you think about Quan Alexander, you think about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you think about Marcus Williams. Like who do you think these guys are talking to all the time, right? Like DA, right? He that culture has a lot of probably maybe more than not to do with him, right? He's in a lot of ways he could be the architect of it because those are his guys, right? You can't have a you can't have a defensive coordinator that's just like one way and then these players are just another, right? They're gonna feed off of him. So and when you listen to these guys talk about him, like listen to Cam Jordan talk about Dennis Allen, he's like, yeah, I don't want the guy to leave. I hope he don't get a job.
Right.
Respectfully, yeah, it's like these guys aren't. It's not lip service. They really view him that way.
They
So
just got to build a good offense. I mean, it's paramount,
yeah,
obviously. I mean,
yeah, yeah. So and that goes back to the point that we were talking about before that. Like, just your thoughts on. I'm not going to give the whole diatribe again, but like just people wanting an offensive head coach to fix the offense. Like, what's your take on that? Do you think that needs to be? I mean, we can talk about the Belichick's of the world and the Mike Tomlins of the world, but like, yeah, just what's your thoughts on like, hey, you can't have a good offense if you don't have a good offensive head coach.
you can have a good offensive coordinator. I don't understand. I don't understand the thought process.
Buffalo, excuse me.
Get good players and have
Get
a
good
good offensive
players.
coordinator.
Yeah, I think it's really that simple. I really is that simple. I'll say this. I'll say this. If you look at who who was the Saints head coach last year? Sean Payton. Right. Now, if you say that the Saints had they had offensive problems, and you say, okay, well, we're going to put Sean Payton in here. Like a lot of people be excited. Like, okay, yeah, he's the offensive genius. He's going to come and fix it. Like, look at the offense last year. Like, it was horrible. Right. and it's because of lack of talent, right? It was lack of talent and injuries, obviously. So I just think it's a player problem on offense. It's not necessarily a coordinator problem or a coaching problem or
Well,
anything.
it could eventually be a coordinator problem, a coaching problem, but currently, before coming off of last season, before we have all that information and how it's going to look out, yeah, it's a talent issue right now.
It's a talent problem.
Very much so a talent problem. Wouldn't matter if they had Sean Payton back, Eric Bieniemy, John Morton, Doug Marrone, Brian, whoever.
Tabo,
Yeah,
all
that
this,
wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter who the offensive coordinator is, Joe
all the
Lombardi.
Shanahan, all the Shanahans,
The whole family.
all,
Yeah, Sean
all of
McVay. It
them.
wouldn't matter. It wouldn't
Zach
matter who.
Taylor,
It
yeah.
wouldn't matter, yeah, because they didn't have enough good players. But yeah, I mean, it could end up being a coaching issue and all that stuff moving forward, depending on what they do. I mean, there's a lot to answer on that side of the ball. I mean, I think that's where things are a little bit scary right now is trying to figure that out. And it's exciting on one hand, and it's nerve wracking on the other. And the fact that it probably won't be Pete Carmichael is that
It's interesting.
that takes it away a little bit. It was kind of like before the principal was stepping out and the two vice principals, one of them was becoming the principal and the other vice principal was just, becoming a more empowered vice principal and kind of keeping that going just kind of made it feel like it was going to be similar and the same. But the fact that Carmichael might not be doing that, now you're in a place where things are completely different. And
what's your token on? Because DA's he said, offensively, it probably won't be too different than what we're doing in the press conference, but we may tweak some things. Like just what's your take on that? Regardless of what he says with lip service,
it sounds to me like they'll probably hire somebody with ties or looking at somebody with ties to the system that can come back and do it. And
Doug Marrone, I'm trying to think who else.
John Morton was a OC for the Jets. I think he's a senior offensive assistant with the Raiders right now. So I mean, he's somebody that could definitely possibly be a possibility. I don't know who else is out there that they would go after. Mike New. I mean, I doubt it.
I don't think that's.
But I mean, maybe somebody like that. But
they could hire from within too. I mean, maybe Dan Rochar or one of these guys. I mean, I don't know. They could hire from within or go get somebody outside the organization.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, and Dan is staying on the staff, by the way.
That's big. I want him to kind of go back to the O-line though. Like they need. Like I'm not saying I don't know. That's probably short-sighted. That's probably a little short-sighted, but they need that group to be like on point this year. But proceed.
Yeah, but it could become a coaching issue if they don't get the right guy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting though because like the whole thought process could be different now that Sean's gone, and there's some things that like, especially if there was, now that it's not Carmichael either, like it how does the next guy view Taysom? Is he even allowed to play quarterback? Is that even an option? How does that work? Do they look at Cesar Ruiz as a guard still, or does he go to center? Do they see, is he viable? Like there's a lot of different things, do they block the same way? Does the next guy want to run zone schemes? Like again, DA said a lot of it's going to be the same. So I suspect a lot of it will remain the same, but I mean, there's just new questions. Whereas for 16 years, everything was so much the same that I think that everybody knew exactly what they were looking for. I think a lot of people recognized play concepts and stuff. Like it was so similar and so the same that you could almost
you could
think exactly like, it wasn't that hard to make your thought process align with the offensive ideals of this team because they were so consistently the same that, you could guess at a lot of stuff. And it was basically, so educated that it was impossible to be wrong. And now that's all going to change. And I mean, I'm excited by that possibility, seeing things a little bit differently. And, with Carmichael, the way I've kind of heard it is that he wants to step back. It's not so much that he's being pushed back, that he wants to step back. And look, that could be wrong. Wrong. I'm just saying that's kind of what the rumors are right now is that. So I guess for Pete stepping back, though, would actually be for him staying in the same role, possibly, if he is kind of in the same. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I think it might possibly just be that he was like, hey, I don't want to call plays.
Or different title. Cool. Maybe the same role. Yeah, like different title, same role, like offensive.
analyst or something. Yeah.
Analysts or that's
Which would
interesting.
essentially be exactly what he was doing for Peyton, but it was just probably, hey, I don't want to, like, I'm good at this and I want to do this. Let's just keep
Yeah,
it the same. I think that's possibly what happened.
that's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, and he could still game plan. I mean,
Look,
it doesn't have to be the same system to know how to attack a defense, right? If you understand the offense, then there's only so many coverages you run against, cover 2 or cover 4, right? Every offense isn't doing something revolutionary, right? They all have some of the same concepts. So he could
I
probably fit
kind of
into that role. Oh, go ahead.
I respect the hell out of somebody that knows like what they want to do and they just do that.
I mean, I respect it too. Like, this is my lane. This is my bag. I'm staying in it.
Yeah.
T-Pain's still using auto tune. Like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't out here trying to and T-Pain can sing for real though. Like, he has a good, I'm just, that's an example. But yeah, dude, just like, yo, this is what I do, right? Like, I respect a rapper that go out and he's just like, man, like Push, like, man, I'm a certain type of rapper. That's what I'm a rap about.
Right.
Like, you guys want me to change my subject? Like, no, this is what I know. This is what I do. Missy is my only misdemeanor. And so it's. I follow you. I follow you. Elephant in the room. I've seen it in the chat a few times. Whatever. Bieniemy, offensive coordinator. People are. I've been
Doubt it.
tweeted about it so many
Doubt it.
times. Doubt it. There we go. Next subject. So thinking about DA as the head coach, like, and everything's, we have a relatively positive take on there, and I think that's the right take. I don't think there's really much to be negative about, at least not yet. Get a guy a chance, but if he what concerns you about it? Like, what do you say? Like, okay, well, this is what I'm not sure about. This is, where I think he may have to, have some growing pains, etc. Like, what are some of the things you think he's going to have to work on, or you just need to see it and see him do it to feel confident about it, when Sean was the head coach, you kind of just expected it to work fine?
I think it's really only one thing, really. I mean, in other things are going to come up. It's impossible to know what someone's going to struggle at before that you see him in the role or
Right.
anything like that. And we didn't really see any struggling on the defense. Like, his game management and all that stuff was extremely on point. I didn't really see anything in the Tampa Bay game where you're looking at him like, wow, this is crazy. Why are they doing that? I thought it was really well managed and all
Yeah.
that. Maybe no, I mean, I can't even say it's going to be like a conservative approach, because I mean, I think DA is kind of an aggressive guy by
Yeah,
nature.
me
So
too.
I think
Yeah.
he might even be aggressive about some of like his offensive, go for it decisions and stuff like that. I
Don't
wish
be
we would have had
stately.
more time with him today, because like there were some game management things I wanted to ask him about, and like we got two more questions, and it's like,
I
man,
heard that.
this thing's already
Yeah, I
over.
heard
Yeah.
that.
Um,
Quick 27 minutes.
the one thing that I'm looking at in, it's probably unfair, because I think, look, I don't know this, but I think there was a lot of weird stuff that happened in Oakland that maybe he wasn't making every decision, didn't have, uh, autonomy over all decisions. Like, that would be my guess about that situation. Just historically, the Al Davis Raiders, that's just kind of how it was, right? It might not be true for DA's tenure or whatever, but I kind of feel like maybe there were decisions being made for him that he wasn't necessarily empowered the way he will be here. And I think maybe situationally, there were some things working against him where he wasn't supported the way he should have been. You go through
Mhm.
the history of coaches there, people that, failed and didn't do a good job in the list is extensive, down to Mike Shanahan, who,
Oh, he
had a
was.
quick tenure there and then came back and becomes one of the better coaches in the NFL. I just think it's kind of a thing with the Al Davis teams that maybe sometimes there was dysfunction. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. It's something that kind of, I think everybody thought
It's
about that
known in the
organization
league.
back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm
I mean, I
speaking on
think
things I don't know. I'm just guessing at things, but I say this to say, to get to my point, he
didn't
has,
Parcells tell Sean not to take the Raiders job at some point
yeah,
too? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay,
Look,
there we go, yeah.
I think Belichick passed him on one point too, but
Oh, okay.
I say all that to say, like, there were some moments in, I think he had some issues finding an offensive coordinator in Oakland, And I think he ran through a handful of them actually during a short
Mhm.
period of time. And I don't know if that was him or the setup or whatever, but I think
Gotta
I
get
don't know
that
if he
cleaned
was
up.
firing them. I don't know if the organization was firing them. I don't know if he was picking the people. Those are questions that I would love to know the answers to. You're never going to get the real answer because there's no value in it for anybody to answer those at this
Yeah,
point. And
water under the bridge.
my one thing with them, I mean, and it's coming up right away, is just getting an OC. I mean, that's the only thing I'm really worried about as
Especially with
far as
Pete
it
saying he
goes.
may not wanna Pete potentially not wanting to be in that role. It's kind of like
Yeah.
a glaring open hole
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
staff at
I mean,
this point,
that's the
right?
one concern, is just finding that guy. That's it. But I mean, fairness, I mean, this is something that was kind of a pockmark on his first tenure. So,
We'll see how it
that's the
turns
only
out.
thing that, yeah. I mean, and look, I think they've done such a good job as staff. And I mean, it's really not something I'm super concerned about. But yeah, I mean, it is something that has to be answered, though, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really have anything that I would say I think was concerning really. I think got my eye on the offensive coordinator situation. I think this team I think it's a desired location, right? I think people probably look at how the Saints are run, et cetera, and this is a nice place to coach. And if you come here, I think that as an offensive coordinator, like like that this is your chance. Like it's a nice stepping stone. You come here, you turn this offense good. I think you're a head coach in a couple of years, right? I mean, I think that's pretty clear. And so,
Well, look,
um,
I'm wrong. Actually, Al Davis died right before Da took over. So I mean, but still, I mean, the Raiders were very dysfunctional for a very long time, and I, I think they still kind of are
I
up until
mean,
now. I mean,
yeah, they kind
I
of really
mean,
haven't figured it out. Yeah, they
I
just
think they
hadn't
made
really.
two. I think they made two really good hires, and Josh McDaniels would have been one of the people. And I think they're kind of set up for success going forward. But
No, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He wouldn't have taken that job if he kind of was hamstrung, I don't think. And DA being a young 39-year-old coach,
yeah,
that was a job that was available and it's only 32 of these jobs. And so he took it and, you learn from that, right? And, I'm pretty sure like if that same situation was available now, he probably would turn it down because, he probably understands
yeah.
what
You know what you don't know.
hamstrings you. Yeah, you know what you don't know. Exactly. Exactly. Um, I will say I'm keeping an eye on like situational football. I know that Sean like always had them ready for that stuff, and I'm pretty sure he's Sean's, he comes from the Sean tree, but like things like the 2-minute offense
Oh yeah,
was just so good. It was just you take it for granted, no matter who was at quarterback. Trevor Simeon, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, Drew Brees, Luke McCown. It just didn't matter. They were just good in that area. So stuff like that is where I think you kind of take it for granted how good a team is in a certain particular part of the game. And yeah, I just think that you want to see it continue, but it's not automatic, right? You have to make it work, and I think that's something I'll be keeping an eye on.
yeah. I mean, that's a really really good point. I mean, there's just some of that stuff that and people listened and responded to him, and they would take that kind of like hard, annoying, detail oriented coaching because the results are there. And
Hmm.
somebody else could come in and try to push the same buttons. And if you don't get the same results
Yeah,
immediately, like let's say right now they have a bad offense, right? And maybe you
yeah,
don't address all those issues.
hmm,
And it isn't Sean Payton telling you everything to do with 16
right,
years of history of success. And now
yeah,
this new guy's telling you, and he's trying to hammer you, and your offense stinks like it did last year. People might
yeah,
start to tune that out. So yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the dangers right now going into
yeah,
this, especially if you want to run the same system that is so detail oriented and all that stuff. So it
yeah.
yeah, I mean that'll be extremely interesting to see how people respond to that, and if the next coach can keep everybody as on point and so into the minutia, because the
Mhm.
minutia is what created success here for so long.
Yeah. 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 Totally with you. Um, Last topic, uh, AK, what's going on there? Just
He got back yesterday. I mean, look, in the police report, he said he basically said, "Yep, I did it, and these are the people I was with." So I mean, I don't really think that's just kind of who he is. I'm not even surprised, by it. Like he's just kind of he just doesn't. he seems smart enough to know, like, hey, I'm on camera. This is what happened. Let's just get it over with. And I think that's kind of the situation they're in. So if
Yeah.
he
Always something
did,
with this.
yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a ton to discuss there. It's just kind of see how it gets handled, how it plays out, and
Yeah. Always something with this team, man. Never a dull moment. But I'll say this: if you guys ever get into trouble, don't talk to the police before you talk to your lawyer. It's just like 101. Just I know a lot of lawyers and they all tell you the same thing. Like, just shut your mouth up. You have the right to remain silent. It's like a right. When you say you have the right to remain silent, like it's your right. You
look,
can.
I don't even think it makes a difference. So I mean, if the thing says it's on tape here. I mean, like, I think it's just a situation. He was aware of what the situation was and was just basically like, look, I'm going to cooperate. Like, take that into account. Let's get this over with. And, in a situation, I'm not going to give legal advice, but like I when you kind of think of through in this is an extremely intelligent person. I think he
Mhm.
might have just read the room and did what he had to do. Look, he didn't have to spend the night in prison, like all this stuff. I think his cooperation was probably smart in
Mhm.
this instance where there isn't, when they got you in HD, they got you in HD. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've seen some people get off on some crazy stuff though. I mean, I'm not giving legal advice either, so you
Yeah.
guys ignore what I said. But me, I don't care if I was on tape. I'm seeing, but regardless, man, it's a situation we'll keep our eye on. I'm definitely not here giving no legal advice. And yeah, it's just unfortunate because for a team that doesn't have offensive weapons to lose AK for like, I don't know, I'm just gonna 4 or 6 games or however much it is, or maybe something happens with the situation and you know, we still gathering the facts are still being consolidated by public reporting. So we'll see how it turns out. But it's something to keep an eye on because your best offensive player right now is maybe unavailable for a few games, and so that hurts the team in so many ways. Like, this was the year that couldn't happen because whoever comes in and coaches this offense and is going to be the quarterback, it's nice to have an Alvin Kamara, and it makes you think like, okay, well, the draft is coming up. Like, is that a bigger need now? Right?
Yep.
It's just something that they did not need at this moment, and it's unfortunate. So, always something, always something. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Had a nice crowd here tonight. So chat, shout out to you guys. I was reading everything you guys were posting, and you guys were correcting me when I needed. Make sure you guys, if you guys need a CPA, Daniel Sant CPA, give him a call. I gave him a call. My friend gave him a call. Nick gave him a call. We're all better. I was strongly recommending. And Firehouse Subs and Veterans. Look, that's the only place to, if you want a Subway or anything, if you're just hungry, period, that's one of the places to go. So check it out. If you guys want us to slander your competition, hit me in the DMs and I am totally down for it. So thank you guys for supporting us. If you are not a subscriber to NewOrleans.Football, I don't understand what else we can do, but we're going to keep doing more until we get you to subscribe. Right, you guys have no choice. You're just gonna eventually succumb to it. So you can go out fighting, or you can just you can forfeit. But in all seriousness, we appreciate everybody who supports this pod and supports what we're doing. It means the world to us. We can't do it without you guys. So you guys be safe. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. We out.